Today we're going to talk about a really unique concept called 1035 loan carryover. This is a great way to rescue your client's life insurance policy if they've taken out too many loans. Hi, I'm Dave Donchie with Leisure, Werden & Terry, and joining me today is Victor Paz, also on the life sales team at LWT. And today we're going to talk about this concept, which is very, very different and something that you can use to help your clients get out of policies where they may be overloaned. So Victor, we're going to talk a little bit about this 1035 loan carryover. Where does this apply?
Well, the good news is that the first thing I think about when I think about 1035 exchange and 1035 exchanges with loan carryover, I always think about policy review, okay? Because that's where it begins. We're talking about an existing policy that has to be reviewed. So for brokers and agents out there that have clients, whether they sold the policy or not, that have clients that have enforced policies with large loans on them, or not that large, but have loans on them, and especially with whole life contracts that have loans on them, because we know that whole life contracts, the only way to extract money from a whole life contract is to create a loan. They don't have the flexibility of withdrawing up to, let's say, basis and
take out a policy loan.
So it's always based on policy loan.
So somebody buys a whole life policy, for example, keeps it for many years, is very disciplined, but over time they've taken money out. Whether it's to pay the premium or they borrowed money, they have to service that debt. And when you have an outstanding loan on a life insurance policy, it impacts the policy performance, right? It lowers the death benefit. You have interest to pay. If you don't pay the interest, it gets tacked into the loan. Your loan gets
kind of like letting. It's kind of like letting your garden or your landscape get the weeds out of control.
Right.
You just don't pay attention to it when you come and look at it. You said, "Oh my God, what's happened?"
Right.
So going back to what you talked about, you mentioned that you buy a life insurance policy, a whole life insurance policy a number of years ago, and you take out a loan or multiple loans, and it's just a fact, Dave. We've been doing this long enough that people say, "I'm going to service the loan, I'm going to pay the interest on it, I'm going to pay the premium," but they don't. Okay, so what happens is many times the interest is being serviced internally with automatic premium interest withdrawals. Okay, so what happens is the loan starts to capitalize and it starts to grow. And if the loan starts to grow, regardless of whether that money goes into the client's pocket, you can ultimately have a gain, and now you're in real trouble. You've got a policy that's way overloaned, and you've got also a gain within the policy, which we all know that if the policy lapses or is surrendered, you're going to pay taxes.
Right. So this 1035 loan carryover concept, and there are not a lot of carriers that do it.
No, they don't.
There are a few that do it that are very good at it. Allows the client to actually, let's say, rescue the policy, transfer the cash value into a new policy via 1035 exchange, and carry the loan over to the new policy.
Correct.
With the whole idea of creating a new policy that might do what for the client?
Well, I'll answer that first. The new policy would potentially not require any further premiums, would not require a loan to be serviced, okay? And in many cases, depending on the client's age and underwriting class, you could actually end up with more net death benefit, okay?
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the existing policy and what it means to the client. What are their choices?
Well, you've got an existing policy that's got a loan on it. One choice is that they do nothing and they continue down that path where they don't service the loan, they may not be paying premiums, and you've got a loan that is capitalizing and growing. It's kind of like a snowball effect. That's one thing, is do nothing, which is always bad.
It's going to get worse.
Yes, the other choice is go back, start servicing the loan, start paying the premiums, and even repay the loan, which in most cases we know people don't do.
Right. Yeah. So essentially a 1035 loan carryover option, and you've got to be healthy, you got to qualify
you have
for
to qualify.
medically, because
Absolutely.
you're buying a new policy, will help somebody get out from the burdens of having to service the loan interest and having a premium that's going up where they never really anticipated that would happen. And depending on the circumstances, that they may even be able to get into a new policy where the costs are lower. They can get more death benefit,
Absolutely.
as you said. They can lower their premium. They can eliminate premiums. There are a lot of things we can do, right?
A lot of things we can do. The one thing that comes to mind is that it'll take away the possibility of having to pay taxes. Because if you have that loan that is snowballing, eventually that policy is either going to lapse or you're going to have to surrender it,
Right.
and you're going to have a gain in that policy. So what the new policy does, like you mentioned, you can many times I've seen increases in death benefit, stop payment of premiums, okay, and depending on the chassis of the policy, have a policy with longer guarantees, and a more cost-effective policy.
Well, that's great, and I would think that every producer knows at least one person who might have an older policy that has loans on it. So let's talk a little bit about prospecting. You mentioned policy review, which is a great way to find new cases.
Yeah, it all starts with policy review.
Right. What does a producer need to do once they identify somebody who has an older policy that may have a large loan on it?
Well, they need to call one of us, one of the leisure ordinary sales people, and then what we'll do is we have a questionnaire, we fill it out, and then we go and we start running the numbers to see if the numbers work. You know, some cases the numbers work, some cases the numbers don't work. But I will tell you that I have seen some of them where the policy loan is up to 90% of the cash accumulation value of the policy. So don't think about it that the loans have to be half of the cash value or less. It could exceed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Policies, the whole life policies that we're talking about can be in pretty bad shape actually. So every time that someone comes across with an old whole life policy with a loan on it, they should discuss it with their client and allow us to do an analysis to see if it makes sense.
1035 exchange with loan carryover is a great way for you to improve your client's situation. Call any of the people at LWT. We'd be more than happy to walk you through a case. Thanks for watching. I'm Dave Donchie for Leisure Worden and Terry Agency.